The story begins with a man named Joe, who suddenly opens his eyes in a strange place. Tall walls surround him, and in front of him there's a camera and a locked iron door. At the center of the room stands a heavy millstone. Joe doesn't have his phone, nor does he remember how he ended up here. Joe is a successful businessman, and now he starts banging on the door, shouting for help. Suddenly, a voice tells him to be quiet. The sound comes from the other side of a vent. Joe rushes to the vent and asks who the person is and how he got here. The man realizes Joe is new and explains that he has been given a special drug. Because of its side effects, the coming days will feel extremely depressing and tomorrow will be especially difficult. He warns Joe to save his energy, then stops talking, saying he must return to work. Joe begins acting desperately, even trying to climb the walls, though it is impossible. Then he hears a whistle from outside. The slider on the iron door opens, and someone throws food and water inside. Joe pleads, explaining that his wife is pregnant and needs him, but the person ignores him and shuts the slider, painfully trapping Joe's hand. As night falls, Joe ties his injured hand with his necktie and eats the bread that was given to him. Suddenly, a projector light shines on the wall, and an AI voice welcomes him to advanced career training. Joe asks many questions, but the AI does not respond. The images vanish, leaving only numbers on the wall. Joe again speaks through the vent, asking what this means. The man explains that the numbers are a countdown until the night ends. Because Joe keeps talking, others nearby become irritated. Joe realizes he is not alone. Many people are in prison here. They tell him to stay quiet, but Joe insists on answers. His neighbor finally reveals that everyone trapped here once worked for the same company Joe did, the Maynard Corporation. Those whose performance was poor have all been locked inside this place. Beyond that, the neighbor refuses to say more. After this, Joe falls asleep, but during the night, he hears terrifying screams. Some people are being terminated, and it sounds as if they're suffering greatly. Joe cannot bear the sound of their cries and covers his ears. The next morning, a guard arrives again, sliding food through the door. He warns Joe that the entire space must be kept clean, or he will be punished. Inside, there's a toilet hole, and Joe must throw all the waste outside. His neighbor tells him he has no choice but to obey. While Joe is disposing of the waste, he notices something beneath the dirt on the floor. As he clears it away, he discovers a human skull, which frightens him. He asks his neighbor if someone was here before him. The neighbor explains that many people have been here before, and most of them have already died. Joe insists that no company could do such a thing, and if so many people are disappearing, surely the authorities would intervene. But the neighbor explains that before joining the job, everyone signed a contract. That contract included a clause giving the company full consent, which makes everything legal. Their mistake was not reading the contract carefully. Joe grows deeply distressed. Once again, the AI voice speaks, announcing that his advanced training seminar will begin today. Joe protests, saying he has given 10 years to the company and worked hard, and they cannot treat him this way. Suddenly, a loud alarm blares, forcing Joe to cover his ears. The AI voice declares that he wasted too much time, which weakened his performance, and this training will teach him how to become a better employee. His work hours will be from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m., after which he may do as he wishes. Each day, he must complete his assigned tasks. The massive millstone in the center must be turned, and each rotation earns him points. He must reach at least 50 points daily, or he will be punished. Another rule is that every day, one employee with the lowest points is terminated, even if they reached 50. Termination means death. Joe, now calmer, pleads again, saying his wife is pregnant and he wants to see her. His neighbor tells him it is useless. The company does not care. If Joe wants to survive, he must focus. His time begins, and he struggles to push the heavy millstone, which is jammed from not being used for days. With all his strength, he finally completes one rotation. The AI congratulates him, and Joe spends the entire day exhausting himself, turning the stone with relentless effort. The next day, Joe tells his neighbor that he completed 100 rotations yesterday. His neighbor warns him never to share this with others, or they will know his score. He also advises Joe not to work too hard, or the company will expect it every day. Joe resumes his task, and this time completes 150 rotations. Suddenly, his door is knocked. Joe fears he is about to be terminated, but instead, water is poured over him. It is a shower. Joe is determined to survive and escape, so he keeps working tirelessly. The following day, his water runs out. Joe asks for more, but his neighbor explains that water is given only once. If Joe wants more, he must urinate into a bottle and filter it to drink. Joe refuses and continues his work. Memories of his past flood his mind. He once told his wife she no longer needed to work. Her delivery date was close, and Joe wanted to avoid any complications. But his wife worried about the hospital bills, which would be very expensive. Maynard Corporation had promised Joe a promotion, yet for a long time, they never gave him one. Lost in these thoughts, Joe keeps turning the millstone and completes 370 rotations. The AI congratulates him, and he collapses from exhaustion. On the handle of the stone, he notices a name carved, Alex. He asks his neighbor who Alex was. The neighbor explains that only one person has ever escaped from here, and his name was Alex. The next day, Joe is rewarded with a pen engraved with his name for his strong performance, though the pen has no real use here. Soon, Joe sees his daily target has changed from 50 to 370 rotations. He shows his blistered hands and says he cannot repeat what he did yesterday. The AI insists he must push himself. Furious, Joe throws the pen against the wall and returns to work. He notices an X mark above the numbers counting his rotations. His neighbor explains that it means a penalty. Now 2 rotations count as 1. If he receives another penalty, 4 rotations will equal 1, and each penalty doubles the effort required. Joe has no choice but to keep turning the stone. Even after working all day, he cannot reach his target. His neighbor warns that failure means death. Joe tries, but cannot complete 740 rotations, collapsing in exhaustion. The AI voice declares he needs motivation. A projector shows his wife's profile, threatening that she will soon be brought here too. Terrified, Joe promises to complete his tasks. He resumes turning the stone, and, as punishment, a massive heater is placed above him. Before 10 p.m., he finally completes 740 rotations, then collapses. The projector shows his wife again, and Joe learns she has given birth to a baby girl. Overjoyed, he realizes he should be with her now. He asks his neighbor how Alex escaped. The neighbor tells him to go near the wall, where the CCTV camera cannot see. Joe finds a circular mark and understands Alex broke through the wall there. Using his pen, Joe begins scraping away the plaster. Day after day, whenever he finds time, he digs into the wall. Soon, the hole grows large enough for him to crawl through. He enters a dark space where nothing is visible. Suddenly, a light shines on him, and a guard strikes his head, knocking him unconscious. When he wakes, he is back in the same place with the massive millstone. His daily target has now increased to 1,000 rotations. His neighbor has also been punished. One of his legs has been cut off because he told Joe how to escape. Joe apologizes, but his neighbor says he will no longer help him. Joe insists he wants to get out. After some thought, the neighbor reveals that he designed the entire algorithm. He once worked in the company's artificial intelligence department, where everything here is controlled by AI. A dangerous idea suddenly forms in Joe's mind. He realizes that if nobody completes even a single rotation of the grinding wheel, the entire AI system could break because the algorithm would no longer function properly. Believing this might finally stop the punishments and executions, Joe begins speaking to the prisoners around him through the vents. He tells everyone that the next day, nobody should complete even one full circle. According to him, this is their only chance to destroy the AI's control over them. At first, the others agree with his plan, but only moments later, the AI voice interrupts and announces a terrifying new rule. Any employee with 0 points will immediately be terminated. Fear spreads instantly through the facility, and one by one, every prisoner begins turning their grinding wheels again. Joe's entire plan collapses within seconds. Joe's neighbor, the man who already loses one leg as punishment, quietly tells Joe that he must at least complete one rotation because he physically cannot do it anymore. His death is now guaranteed. Feeling helpless, Joe follows his request and completes a single circle. The injured man already knows his fate is sealed. Before the guard arrive, he finally reveals the truth. He is actually Alex, the only man rumored to escape this place. He explains that he once attempts to break free, but ultimately fails, which is why he's transferred into another cell and tortured even further. Soon afterward, guards arrive and drag him away. All Joe can hear afterward are Alex's horrifying screams echoing through the prison, leaving him emotionally shattered and disturbed. Time continues passing as Joe spends every single day endlessly turning the grinding wheel like a machine. Eventually, one day the projector shows images of his wife and daughter again. The AI informs him that his daughter is now 3 years old. Hearing this completely destroys Joe emotionally because, in his mind, years have already passed inside this nightmare. He becomes furious and starts yelling at the company and the AI system. Immediately afterward, the AI announces that Joe himself is now being terminated. The heavy door finally opens, and several people enter the room, surrounding him from every side. Among them is the same guard who previously attacked Joe during his escape attempt. This time, the guard prepares a strange injection that appears designed to end Joe's life. Filled with rage and desperation, Joe suddenly attacks the guard. He throws him to the ground and punches him repeatedly while blood splashes onto the clothes of the people standing nearby. The AI voice calmly announces that the guard fails to complete his task. Then it offers Joe a horrifying opportunity. If he kills the guard as punishment, he will be promoted to the next level. But Joe refuses completely. He says he is not a monster and refuses to become a murderer no matter what happens. Emotionally broken and exhausted, he finally decides he wants no part in this system anymore. The moment he declares that he quits, everything suddenly changes. Joe's eyes open, and he finds himself sitting inside a clean room surrounded by several other people. Small devices are attached to everyone's heads and brains. He slowly realizes the horrifying truth. Everything he experiences is actually part of an advanced virtual simulation. None of the prison environment is physically real. Instead, the program sends human consciousness into an artificial world so realistic that every pain, emotion, and fear feels completely real to the mind. A man then approaches Joe, and, shockingly, he has the exact same face as the guard Joe attacks inside the simulation. The man explains that although it feels like Joe spends months trapped in that nightmare, in reality, only a few hours pass in the real world. The supervisor then tells Joe that he accomplishes something no employee ever manages before. Not only does he complete every task, but he consistently exceeds expectations. Because of that, the promotion that was delayed for so long is finally being offered to him. Joe also learns that his wife is still pregnant and that his child has not even been born yet. Everything involving his daughter growing older is simply part of the simulation designed to manipulate him emotionally. Afterward, Joe is taken into an office where he notices a photograph of his wife waiting on the desk. There, the company forces him to sign a contract stating that he can never reveal anything about this program to anyone outside. Joe signs the document. Moments later, he calls his wife, and the sound of her voice fills him with overwhelming relief because, to him, it feels like he has just escaped from hell itself. But deep inside, Joe has already made his final decision. After experiencing unimaginable mental torture and emotional suffering, he no longer wants innocent people to go through the same nightmare. He becomes determined to expose the company and reveal the horrifying truth behind the simulation program to the entire world. And with that chilling realization, the story finally comes to an end.